everybody, welcome back to another Python tutorial video. Today we're going to be going over for loops and continuing off list part 1 a little bit. So in today's outline, we're just going to be practicing iterating over a list using two different methods, a sequence and a range, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And we're going to talk about the different ways that we can utilize this range function. So first off, let's just create a list of different NFL teams since the Super Bowl is today. So we'll create a list called NFL teams, and we'll set it equal to a list. And inside this list, we're just going to include different NFL teams, just like this. And we'll just add about 4 or 5. Just to keep things simple. And if you don't watch football, that's all right. You can create a list of anything. You could do dog breeds, grocery list, favorite colors, anything you want. This is just to have something to practice using. And we'll do one more. We will do. All right, so we have a list of NFL teams. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Patriots, and the Chargers. All right, so we have, and then if you don't remember from the last video, Tampa Bay Bucks are going to be at location 0. The Chiefs are going to be at location 1. Raiders are at location 2. Patriots at location 3. And Chargers at 4. Because in Python, we start counting at 0. And each item is just going to be incremented by 1, just like this. So now if we wanted to print out all of these NFL teams, the first thing we might want to do is, okay, well, let's just print NFL teams, bracket at location 0. This should print out, let me just write it right here, the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? So if we run this, oh, and then we have a period. So if we run this, we should get, what is this? Okay, so we have an error. Oh, I see the error. I need to select an interpreter. So let's do this. So essentially this is just what my code is going to be interpreted as, and I'm going to be using Python 3.9. And that's just the version. So if I rerun this, we should get Tampa Bay Bucks, boom, just right here. And just to clear things up. So again, the issue was I didn't have my interpreter selected, so it didn't really know what path I was using. In this case, I just fixed it by clicking this and making sure I was using the proper version of Python 3.9. So if I rerun this one more time, I should get Tampa Bay Bucks printed right here, and that's exactly what we get. And if we want to print out the New England Patriots, all we'll do is pick the location. So we'll do NFL teams at location 3. We will run this and we will get New England Pats. And if we wanted to print out multiple teams on different lines, we can do exactly that by doing this and location 4. If you don't know what team is going to get printed out, go ahead and pause it, see if you can figure it out. But if you look at our locations right here, on the comments we made, this is going to be location 4, which is the Los Angeles Chargers. So if we run this, we'll get the New England Pats and the Los Angeles Chargers printed right there. Now, if we have a list of 50 items, 100 items, 200, 300, just a ton of items in our list, it's going to be really difficult to try to print out items like this, try to display different things if we're just using a print statement. So one way we can get around this is by using a for loop. So essentially what a for loop is it is a way for us to iterate or go over every single item in our list and manipulate it. So if we want to print it, we can print it. If we want to change it, we can change it. If we want to skip a certain number, so we want to go through the entire list and skip 3, then we can do that. So the basic syntax for a for loop is going to be for, and then some temporary variable name. And we can change this variable name as we see fit. So for some temporary variable in some sequence. And a sequence is essentially just anything that can be iterated over. So in this case, our sequence is a sequence of NFL teams, a list. A list is a sequence, and if we hover over our variable right here. Let's see if we get something to pop up. No, it's not popping up. Okay, usually I get a little display message and it'll tell me that this item is a list and it'll give me a little information, but I guess it's not popping up right now. That's all right. So essentially, yes, so for some temporary variable and some sequence, so a sequence like a list or a dictionary that we'll talk more about in later videos, or set, essentially anything that has multiple items in it. And then we want to finish that line with a colon, and then when we press enter, we want to make sure we're indented, one indentation, and then this is where our code is going to go. So this is where we would print those items out, manipulate the items in the list, or do whatever. So let's go ahead and take a look at an example. So we can say something like, okay, we have a list called NFL teams. I want to go over every single NFL team and print each one of them out. So to do that, I'll just write for and then temporary variable name. So I can just say for team. So for team, it's just a made up variable in NFL teams. So for the way I like to read this is by saying for every single team inside of NFL teams, press enter, and then we're going to do something. All right, so for every team in NFL teams, do something. So what we're going to do is we're just going to print out team. So for every single team in NFL teams, let's print it out. So if we run this, let me clear my screen. Oops. So if I run this, I'll get every single team printed out, just like that. Because it's going to iterate, it's going to go over every single item in our sequence in NFL teams, and it's going to print it out. So now let's say I wanted it to print out number 1, Tampa Bay Bucks, number 2, Kansas City Chiefs, and so on. Well, I can create a variable for that, so I can say something like count is equal to 0, and then I'm going to print out count. And then let's add a space, and we'll add a colon in between. So essentially what I want to get printed out is I wanted to say something like count. Oh, count is, let's start count at 1. So I wanted to say something like 1 colon Tampa Bay yada yada yada. Same thing with the rest. So it was a 2 colon Kansas City yada yada. So just like that. Now if we run this, we'll get a count. But there's a small error with our code. Every single time we print it out, we just get 1. We get 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So one way to fix this is, well, if we're starting at 1, every single time we loop through, let's just increase the value of 1. So we can do that by just doing count plus equals 1. And what this is saying is, okay, go ahead and print count out. Originally count is 1. Once you print it out, let's increase the value of count by 1. So now if we run this, there we go. So we get our list all printed out, 1 through 5. And now we know how many items are in our list, and we're able to print it out, clean it up a little bit, make it look a little nicer. So a different way to loop through this list is by using a range. So I'll go ahead and leave a comment right here, using sequence. And then second part is going to be using range. Let's go ahead and put this right here. All right, so using a range is somewhat similar to a sequence, except with a sequence, we're not really specifying a length. We're not saying, hey, let's do this 5 times. We're just saying, let's do this as many times as there are items in this sequence. But if we want to do something a specific number of times, we would want to utilize range. So let's say we didn't care about all 5 teams, right? We only cared about the first 3. Okay, so we only cared about these first 3. So what we can do is, and I'll go ahead and leave a comment of the syntax of this. So it's going to be for, and then some temp variable name. We can name our variable whatever we want in some range, right? And then our range is going to look like this. And then inside these parentheses, we're going to specify the range we want to give it. So if we want to give it a range like 1 through 4 or all the way up to 9 or anything we want, we can do exactly that. And then this is going to be our code. So we'll go ahead and create an example. So let's say we wanted to do the first 3 teams. We can say something like 4, and then we'll do something like, we'll just say team 1. We'll say for team 1 in range, and then we want to do the first 3 items. So we'll just put 3. If we want to do something 3 times, all we have to do is pass in the number 3. However, if we wanted to print it out, we would not print it out like this. So originally, in our sequence for loop, we just said for every team, so for every single team in our sequence of NFL teams, let's print out the value of team. So it starts off, team is equal to Tampa Bay Bucks, it prints it out. Then team is equal to Kansas City Chiefs, prints that out. Then team is equal to the Las Vegas Raiders, prints that out, and so on and so forth. We're not able to do that with range. With range, we have to specify the value. So if we want to do that, I'm actually going to change the name from team 1. I'm just going to change it to I, just because it's easier to type, and you'll see what I mean. So if we want to specify, actually, let's just print out what I is equal to, just so you guys can get a better understanding of what range does. So if we print out the value of I, we're just going to get these numbers right here. We're going to get 0, 1, and 2. And in Python, again, it always starts off at 0. So we're going to get a range of 3, 0, 1, and 2. But we don't want the values of 0, 1, and 2. We want these values right here: Tampa Bay Bucks, Kansas City Chiefs, and Las Vegas Raiders. But notice that the locations are 0, 1, and 2. So instead of printing out I, let's just print out NFL teams at the value of I. So now if we run this, then I'll go ahead and add a new line and then using range. And then so now if I run this, I'll get exactly that. So I'll get my 1 through 5 using my sequences, and then using range, I'll get my first 3. Now if I wanted to do the same thing with this count, I don't need to create a variable for count because I have the value I. So what I could do is I can just add I right here, just like that. And now if I run this one more time, let's clear my screen. If I run this one more time, I'll get it right here. 0, 1, and 2. And if I want this to be a little cleaner, I could just add 1 to it. So whatever the value is, it's just going to add 1. And if I run this one more time, there we go. So I got 1, 2, and 3. Now there's different ways we can manipulate this range function right here. Let's say we wanted to do the first 4 teams. Well, we can just change this to 4, run this, and we'll get our 4 teams right here. But what if we wanted something in the middle? What if we wanted 1 through 3? Or what if we wanted 2 through 4? What if we wanted something like that, right? Well, we can add a starting value and an ending value. And there's something that's going to be a little different about this. So if we provide a starting value, it's going to start at that location. So it's going to start at 2. But the ending value is going to be exclusive, meaning if we say 4, it's going to end at 3. If we say 7, it's going to end at 6. So whatever number you want to go to, just make sure you add 1 to this ending value. So if we run this, we're doing 2 to 4, which is essentially just 2 and 3. So we should just get the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots. So if we run this, and there we go, Las Vegas Raiders, New England Patriots, and we got our I values because we started at 2, we added 1 to it, so we got 3, and then we continued on to the next one, 3, added 1, printed it out, and we end at 4. There's also one other thing that I'll go into. Let's say we wanted to print out this entire list, but we wanted to skip. We wanted to skip, right? So we'll do 0, we'll start at 0, we'll end at 4, but we'll skip the Chiefs, and then we'll skip the Patriots. So what we can do is we can add a skip value. So we can just do 0 to 5, or 5, right? Yeah, 0 to 5, because we want to do 0 to 4, which is all the teams. And we'll add some skip number. So if we run this, go ahead and pause the video if you want to guess the output, see if you can figure it out on your own. But we'll go ahead and run this. And we'll get the Tampa Bay Bucks, skip 2, Las Vegas Raiders, skip 2, Los Angeles Chargers. And we can change this value to be whatever we want. So if we run it with 3, we should get the Tampa Bay Bucks to start off with. Then we'll get the New England Patriots, I believe. Yep. And then it tries to skip another 3, but it goes outside of the range. So it prints out Tampa Bay Bucks, skips these 3 right here because we gave it a skip value of 3. It prints out the Chargers, and then it tries to skip again, but the range is over. We're outside of our range, so the for loop executes. That's pretty much it for today's video. Just to recap, we went over list a little bit again and just how to index into them. And we went over using a sequence to iterate over this list. We went over the range, so we can specify just a single value, and that's how many times our for loop will execute. We can give it a range from a start to an end exclusive, and we can also provide a skip value if we want to skip over different indexes in our list. All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope this was useful, and then I'll be posting another video sometime later this week.